It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. We got State Representative Jack Ladyman on the line. He's a state representative for District 59. Jack, remind us geographically, where is that?
Well, good morning, Paul. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yes, sir.
District 59 is primarily northeast Craighead County. Includes north and west Jonesboro, Bono, Cache, out that way.
And I know you're in Little Rock right now, and the legislative day is going to kick off here pretty soon. I wanted to have you on, sir, because you're the chair of the powerful. A lot of people are interested in the Public Health Committee, and so you're the chairman of that. And you guys are now starting week number 3 of Scope Week, or the Scope Weeks, I guess. How's it going so far, in your opinion?
Well, Paul, I think it's going very well, and as you said, it's one of the busiest committees in the House, and it's quite different being a chairman and of one of the committees that see a lot of the bills. Keeps me busy, I'll say that. But yeah, one of the things that we do in public health and labor, now it's labor and welfare is also rolled in there, so we see all of the ADEQ, the labor, all those bills as well. But one of the things that we do is scope of practice, and of course that affects our doctors, our pharmacists, our nurses, and what they practice and what they're allowed to practice. So it is very important, and as you can imagine, there are a lot of people that are interested in those bills, and so we draw a crowd.
Oh man,
a lot of people are here for that. As you know, you've been in the room.
I have standing room only, and man, a lot of white coats. It's like which flock of white coats is coming in. It's coming in today. Like, what's your medical profession? And you never really know. But yeah, to me, it's been interesting to watch. Do you think changing scope of practice, meaning expanding what medical professionals can do, is that something that's pretty difficult from your point of view? Have you seen it? It's a hard thing to get the committee on board with changing things.
It's very difficult, Paul. And those bills, as you know, you've been in there, they've been vetted really, really well. And we've already had three, maybe 4 votes that have been 10-10. And so that's how that committee is split. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's a good thing because we've got a lot of medical folks on that board. We've got people like me that have been involved in labor. We've got small business owners on there. So we've got a good mix, and we really do look at those bills. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that, I'm a labor, an engineer, and I'm vetting doctors' scopes. And, people say, well, are you able to do that? But we need the views of different groups of people with different backgrounds. Because here's the bottom line, Paul. What these scope of practice bills basically do is they talk about, what can nurses do? Can nurses do more, which in turn would cost less and would increase access in rural areas of Arkansas? Can they effectively and safely do more? Can pharmacists do more? Can anesthesiologists, nurses do more? If they are fully capable, trained, and able to do that and provide quality service, then that will reduce costs for medical treatment, and it will give people in rural counties more access to that. So that's the goal. But it's difficult. It's very difficult.
And you would say, Jack, you're generally, as a Republican, you're on board with that goal, right?
I am. But the line, where do you draw the line, and how do you vet that? You want to make sure. If APRN can treat people out in rural South Arkansas without people driving all the way to Little Rock or some bigger city, then it's going to be less cost for those folks, and they're going to get treatment where in other cases they may not get that treatment. They may not have the resources to even get there. Mm-hmm. So that's one side. The other side is that you don't want people to get inadequate treatment that might cause them harm.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line? That's the debate.
Yeah.
Every single bill.
Yeah, I agree that is what y'all are debating there. I can definitely see that. I'm more of a well, I don't want to say pro-choice because that's going to be totally misconstrued. I want more choice out there for the consumer, and I want people to be able to volunteer. I don't want anyone, let's say, forced to go see an advanced practice nurse if they don't want to go see one. Yeah, but I would like, and I think generally this is what the deregulation side is for.
Well, that's a good point, Paul. You make a good point there because you still have the choice. If we pass these bills, people still have the choice to go to the higher level training, physician.
Mm-hmm.
They still have that, and we want to make sure that people understand that we're not forcing them to go to a nurse.
Yeah. And of course, this particular bill, it failed. It was one of this nurse practitioner bill that would have expanded the scope. From what I understand, Jack, this would have been something that would have allowed nurse practitioners to do what other states, and I think it had something to do with an agreement, a contract or something with collaborative agreement.
Collaborative agreement. Yeah. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but what it is now, nurses in Arkansas, they're required to have a collaborative agreement with the doctor, and of course they have to pay for that. And the doctor gives oversight to those nurses that are working maybe out in a clinic by themselves out in Bono. Actually, we have one in Bono like that. And the doctor provides oversight. Well, that's a cost. So the nurses have to pass that cost on. So it increases the cost to folks.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can not require that collaborative agreement, a contract basically, then those nurses can still get information and call doctors and collaborate with other professionals, but they're not saddled with that cost.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the bills that did fail last week, and it was a 10-10 tie. You need 11 votes to get out, and it was a 10-10, right?
Yeah, right.
God.
The other one, the optometrist bill, is another good example. That was a 10-10. One person didn't vote, but I think it was 10-10.
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing, the optometrists have a certain level of training. The ophthalmologist has a higher level of training, more years of practice. The question is, can these optometrists do some of the things, the minor things like minor laser, minor surgery, and can they do that effectively? If they can provide that service at a lower cost and more, in more areas of the state.
Mm-hmm.
They're in 65 counties. The ophthalmologists are only in, 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
So there aren't more available.
Wow. Well, and I was there that day, and you had horror stories, Jack, of one time an optometrist messed up, and this woman is now down in Louisiana, optometrist in Louisiana, and this woman is now blind, and that they really just it's been, I'll be honest, State Representative Jack Ladyman, it's been frustrating to see how hard it is to allow professionals who go to school and are trained and are allowed to do certain procedures in other states. For decades, Oklahoma's been allowing optometrists to do the specific procedures, that you were referencing, and Arkansas is just like, no, can't do it, and they claim it's about public safety, but I'm not so sure it is about public safety. I think it's more about control, but that's just my opinion.
You're right, Paul, and that's our job. We signed up for this, and that's what we have to vet these bills, and so you have to ferret out what the facts are. I'm not saying these things that they're telling us are not true; they're true, but were they caused by the optometrist, or there are things in the medical community that happen, unfortunately, at all levels
Yes.
of treatment.
Yes.
So what is actually relevant here and what is not,
Mm-hmm.
and that's our job when we're on that committee, and we have to pay attention, we have to listen, because we want to protect our people, but we also want them to get treatment, and we want them to get treatment that they can afford.
Yeah.
And it's a tough job.
It is, and in the context of and I think this is an objective fact. I honestly, what I'm about to say is I don't think it can be disputed. I'm sure somebody on the left would. The more government has gotten involved in our health care at any level, the more expensive it's gotten. And I think certainly there's an indirect link. I think it's a direct link. And so, on the flip side of that, if we're talking about getting government, getting the regulatory, the regulations out of the way, I think the price is going to go down. And that's the argument that's being made with a lot of these bills, if you give people more choice and there's more people that are able to provide that service in a free market, the price is lowered, and that's good for it's good for the people. I don't know if it's good if you're
No, I agree. I agree with you, Paul, and I think that's true not just in the medical community, but anything. If you talk about, I've dealt with ADQ a lot, and the same thing there. The more regulation you have, the higher the cost is to small businesses or any business. That's true anywhere. But we also are, on the other flip side, we've got to protect our people. And I'll just throw it out here now, and I'm not sure whether I'm going to run this bill, but I have a bill that I may file today, the hepatitis A issue that we've had in northeast Arkansas and in western Arkansas a little bit. I'm concerned about people working in restaurants that might have that disease and pass that on to folks that go in there just to eat a meal. So I have a bill that I'm looking at where if we have a stressed county where you've had a lot of these cases, we may require restaurant workers to get the hepatitis A shot. Now, that's new regulation, right? And I don't like that. Generally, it will be paid for by insurance that these companies, restaurants already have, so it won't be an extra cost on the people. But, you got to protect people going in there to eat. And Kentucky's already done this.
Well, so, you know, what's interesting is the rest of the state that's listening right now, you guys might not know about this, Jack, but yeah, it seems like every month there's another restaurant where there's some hepatitis outbreak, and they're urging people to go get vaccinated. If you ate at restaurant A from this date to this date, then you need to get vaccinated because first of all, the cause of this, Jack, is, from what I can tell, is that we have a drug problem. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a source that says that there's that needle drugs, that doing drugs via needle are back in a big way because of the opioid crisis, and the crackdown on prescribing opioids has got people turning back to the real thing instead of the synthetic. Have you heard that at all, Jack?
I have. I've heard that's the biggest cause, the needles, and people using other needles and passing that around, and I've heard that is the biggest cause of that outbreak. And Paul, it's almost an epidemic. I mean, I've got data on that I'll share with the committee if I run this bill or when I run it. And, there's over 380 cases in 5 or 6 counties up there in northeast Arkansas. And it's not just us. They've had some in Fort Smith. Over in Kentucky, close to us, what is that county? Battered County, I believe it is. They actually passed a county ordinance that required that. And I think you're right. I think it is related to the drug problem that we have. That may not be 100% of it, but, we have to protect the public. And, I think this is a good example of you may have to add regulations, if it's necessary, if it's required. Mm-hmm. We should always push back on that, and I always try to do that and not add additional requirements for anybody or taxes or any of that stuff, because we don't want to do that. But, that's why I didn't sign a commitment to not raise taxes, because there may be cases where you have to.
Let's talk about that, Jack.
I was hoping we wouldn't get into that, Paul.
I bet you were. So we've already talked, off the air. I unless something's changed, you are on board with the governor's highway plan that includes taxing a new tax on the gas and diesel at the wholesale level. Tell us about that, Jack. Why are you supportive of it?
Paul, I don't hide. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to tell people. And as you probably know, this is my 3rd term. I've never voted for a tax increase since I've been here, and I don't want to. But there are things that are needed, Our highway system, you've talked about this on your program a number of times. It is in bad shape. We have kicked the can down the road. I hate to use a term that's been used over and over, but that's exactly what we've done. And we have to have good infrastructure. I serve on this committee representing Arkansas at the national level on infrastructure and energy. And, we have got to have good transportation systems or we're going to be left behind. We've got to have it. I don't like new taxes. I wish we could pay for it out of reductions and, savings and that sort of thing. And we've done some of that. But it is to a point to where, because these things take a long time, we have got to move our highway program forward. And I believe it's time that we have to do that. Now, Julie Mayberry has a bill. Dan Douglas has a bill. Johnny Rye had a bill. Other ways to do this. And I was very interested in those bills. I think we still should look at those things and try to do the things that are in those bills that we can do to reduce taxes. Mm-hmm. But at this point, we have got to get our highways. We got to get that program started.
Let me ask
Paul,
you this.
I'll give you.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh well, let me just ask you this.
I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that we can't get done that we really need to do. We need Highway 67 4 lanes up to Missouri. We need that for our area of the state. That is never going to happen unless they get more money. That would bring good economic growth to our area of the state. We're a growing area, and we need a road from Fayetteville to Jonesboro. We need a 4-lane road. That would be a boom for our economy to connect those parts of the state and to have a highway going from Houston, Texas, all the way to Detroit, right to the middle of our area of the state. Those would bring, economic growth, tremendous economic growth to our area. We're not going to get that unless we have good highways, and we have to start now.
So I understand the argument that there is an urgency there, and you say kick the can down the road. I agree with that, but I say the can that's been kicked is that we refuse to reprioritize what a majority of Arkansans agree on, and that's funding our roads through finding the savings or reducing spending elsewhere. So my question, Jack, is I understand your reasoning. I respectfully disagree with supporting the increase in tax, but in your opinion, would it be possible to pay for this without raising taxes, but is there just not really a willingness to have that kind of conversation and seriously enact some real restraints on spending so that it can go towards roads?
Well, Paul, let me say, I think we have to keep the debate going, and I think there definitely are ways that we can cut costs, and we've looked at that. There's been highway bills around the last 2 sessions, and I voted against them because I didn't feel like we had reduced all the costs that we can. And I think there's still other things that we can do, but it's kind of a timing issue. And one of the reasons that I'm voting for it this time is the last 2 sessions, I told the governor and other folks that I cannot vote for that bill because we're not taking money from other sources and putting it on highways that should be there, like sales tax on cars, sales tax on car parts, and those kind of things. And the governor's office and other folks fought that because they didn't want to move general funds over to the highway department.
Right.
Well, they relented on that, so they are now taking general funds as part of this plan, and it will go to highways. Now, granted, it's not as much as I wanted, not as much as a lot of folks wanted, but they did compromise. And when they did that, then I can vote for it.
Do people think it's a foot
more?
Do people think it's a foot in the door? Like, okay, he's allowing general revenue, and from there it can maybe increase in the future. Is that part of the rationale?
Yes, yes, and that's big. That's big because that just to get people to come around. And Paul, this is compromise, and that's what we got to have. We have got to have compromise in our state government to move it forward. And it might be a small compromise that you can work on later to increase. And, I think I understand that. I think the governor understands that. But we have to come to the table and we have to compromise. And we make progress and then we start on the next level, and we start discussing that compromise there. You know, the other side of that is that we need to continue to work to reduce the size of government, to reduce the cost of government. And, I mean, we're doing some things that do that, but it's not readily evident. You know, the three income tax reductions that we've done over the past, third one this session, you know, that's a big deal. That gets our tax system more in line with states around us. And I know a lot of this is moving taxes from one group to another.
A shell game,
but
kind of.
Yeah, it is. A lot of it is. But, you know, we have to get in line with states around us. My deal is, you give a guy a good job, that solves a lot of these other issues. And to do that, we have to be competitive with other states. And that's what we're working on, and we make small progress. But getting our income tax, you know, in line is one thing. You know, we still have a high sales tax. Our gasoline tax is going to be high. We have to work on getting that down. I think we should look at Julie Mayberry's bill and some of the others and say, okay, can we do some of these things that Julie and others are recommending, and can we drop that tax in the future? But we've got to get the ball started to roll on our roads.
We're running out of time. I like the pun you used, the roll pun. We're talking with State Representative Jack Ladyman. Real quick, Jack, the other part of the plan, referring a half-cent sales tax back to the people that's set to expire. Where do you fall on that one?
Well, Paul, as you know, I don't like it. I mean, I really don't like it. But in order to do what we've got to do, you know, we've got to have a certain amount of funds, and that's the only way that's on the table right now to get it. And I think what we should do in the future is to look at, can we roll this back? Can we come up with reductions in government, roll this back? And real quick, I know you're running out of time, but, you know, the transformation bill, a lot of people talk about that. Well, that's just window dressing. But let me tell you, that's going to save us a lot of money if we do it right, and I think we will. And so we're going to see savings that we can use to maybe reduce another tax. I think income tax, we're good. We've got to look at our sales tax, you know, and our other taxes and see if we can reduce them.
State Representative Jack Ladyman, I appreciate you coming on the program and talking to us this morning, sir.
Thank you, Paul.
All righty. I want to remind everybody that the Arkansas share of Medicaid expansion was originally estimated to be this year $50 million, and instead our share is $138 million. That is the main reason why these plans are coming to take more of your money. We're going to take a break. Back in just a moment.